Hey, what's up guys, Darkbreaker here. Today's video will be about patch 4.4b that is coming out in a few hours. By the time you're watching, the patch will come out soon. Honestly, I'm not sure if it's gonna be in the morning or if it's gonna be during the night. But yeah, within the next few hours or within the next 12 hours, the patch should be out. And the patch will include the new champion Sivir. And we have a lot of changes, as you guys can see here, the champion changes, gameplay changes, and I hope you guys will enjoy this video. We're gonna run through all the changes and how I think it's gonna affect the meta. So if you guys are interested, stay tuned and let's talk and see what Riot did with the patch 4.4b. So let's get started. This patch we are sprinting on to the Rift with Sivir. Lots of balance changes, updates coming your way as well. Strap in and welcome to patch 4.4b. New champions! Sivir, the battle mistress. Sivir is a renowned fortune hunter and mercenary captain who plies her trade in the deserts of Shurima. Armed with a legendary jeweled crossblade, she has fought and won countless battles for those who can afford her exorbitant price. Known for her fearless resolve and endless ambition, she prides herself on recovering buried treasures from her perilous tombs of Shurima for a generous bounty. With ancient forces steering the very bones of Shurima, Sivir finds herself torn between conflicting destinies. She is coming out on Friday night, and I mean, depends on the time zone, but I mean, you can see UTC. So for example, for me, she comes out at 2 AM Friday night. Then we have Revenge for her at the same time. Chase down your enemies and claim your bounty. Sivir's Hunt. The Sivir's Hunt event begins November 24th at the same time. Now let's get started with the champion changes. Now we have Darius. We noticed that the effect of Darius' hemorrhage has not been impacted for this patch, which is not ideal since the bleed it provides is essential for to his kit. This buff will return Darius to his glorious state. Have fun dunking. So for the passive, they increase the base on level increase from 1.5 to 2 times, and then the bonus attack damage from 30% to 40%. So this is definitely a pretty decent damage buff onto Darius passive. And remember, the more stacks you have, the more additional damage you will do. So if you have like 5 stacks onto the opponent with hemorrhage, you will do so much damage over time. And then we have Decimate. The healing is getting increased. 15% of 15% lost health and maximum of 45%. So this is gonna be very good for Darius to heal himself up in team fights. So this is a pretty decent buff for Darius in my opinion, and I feel like he was in a decent position in the meta right now, but he definitely was not like, wow, he's a must ban or something like that, because boosters in general have been kind of falling behind in comparison to the ADCs that are really strong right now, or some mages as well that are really strong right now. So nice to see that they're buffing Darius. Maybe a Darius jungle gameplay coming soon. Next one, Ezreal. For Ezreal, they buffed his base attack damage by 4, which is a pretty significant buff. On top of that, the passive, they increased the attack speed. He's getting past stack by 3%. So at max stack, he will get 12% on top. And then the Mystic Shot, they reduced the cooldown in the early game by 0.75. So Ezreal's early game is much better, and overall they made Ezreal even better than he was before. And I can see why, because Ezreal is struggling in the early game and he's a champion that needs to scale. So this is definitely helping Ezreal out to get into the point, or the power spike, where he's just poking people down really hard into the late game. And yeah, Ezreal struggles against a few champions in the laning phase, like Lucian, Draven, maybe Misfortune or Caitlyn. So I can definitely see how this will help him have a better laning phase against those champions. Now for Gallo, they're buffing Gallo. Base HP by 30 and the base armor by 4. this is definitely gonna help Gallo in the early game, in the mid lane for skirmishes, or even as a support. It's gonna definitely make Gallo better. The base of armor is really good actually for the matchups he has against physical damage. Like, let's say he's playing against Zed, Yasuo, Yone. The base armor is gonna definitely help him out, and the base HP is also gonna help him out for those early fights if he wants to go for it, and also for the support lane, obviously. Now for Hecarim. Hecarim received a massive nerf. If you guys wondering, I watched Cancer Roll's video about like the summary about the changes, so I'm a little bit familiar, so we can talk. I mean, I already had or I already made some what did I want to say? I had something in mind for each champion already, what I want to talk about in this video. I guess let's call it that way. The base attack damage got nerfed by 4 for Hecarim, and the base HP got nerfed by 30. This is a very massive nerf for Hecarim, because a 4 base attack damage nerf. For you guys wondering, if they are nerfing like the base attack damage, it's always a big nerf, because it's gonna affect his auto attacks, it's gonna affect the damage on every ability. So them buffing, like for example, the base attack damage of Ezreal is a big buff, or they nerfing the base attack damage of Hecarim, it's a big nerf, and then also the base HP got nerfed, so he's way weaker in the early game in comparison. On top of that, they also nerfed the damage on the first ability, -5 on every rank, and the empowered attack is also scaling from 135% to only 125%. So this is a very significant nerf onto Hecarim. Hecarim has been dominating in the jungle, or has been very strong pick. I need to test him out to see how good he still is. Maybe he's only 18 right now, or maybe he's still standing as a solid strong S tier, so we have to see how these changes are gonna affect Hecarim, but it's definitely a significant nerf. Now for Aelia, they buffed the passive of Aelia. Aelia is getting buffed. The bonus attack damage is getting increased by 5%, and then the base damage is getting increased from 100 to 120. So her late game, when she has like a lot of attack damage items, and I mean, it's gonna be 5% more bonus attack damage she's getting, and then also 20. It's 20 per auto attack, right? So per auto attack she's gonna do 20 more damage. And then for the third ability, the stun, they reduce the cooldown by 1 second per rank, so that's nice to have. If we can talk about Kraken Slayer in a bit. They buff Kraken Slayer and Aurelia's passive at the same time. Aurelia might actually be very good now with those buffs and changes. Kraken Slayer getting buffed, the passive getting buffed, so you're getting like Blade of the Room King, Wit's End, Divine Thunder, Death Dance, stuff like that. It's definitely Aurelia in the right hands can be very devastating in the jungle, Baron lane, and in the mid lane, especially in the mid lane. So we will see how this is gonna affect the meta, because Aurelia is a champion that is very good at countering casters. Like squishy mages in the mid lane, Aurelia is a great counter with high skill ceiling to beat those veil, those crown abusers up, I guess. But crown is obviously very good for the damage reduction. Might not be as easy for Aurelia, like exhaust plus crown, hard to kill. Now next one is gonna be Jinx. They are nerfing Jinx. The movement speed she's getting from the passive is getting reduced by 10%, and also the attack speed is getting reduced by 3%. On top of that, bonus attack speed of Pow Pow Minigun at max stacks is getting increased in the early game, but getting nerfed in the late game. So as you guys can see, 30 to 35, that's a buff. But then late game from 120 to 110. It's not a bad change, because Jinx struggles in the early game, right? So this is nice to have, and they are nerfing her late game a bit. On top of that, the rocket launcher damage is getting decreased by 3%. This should not matter too much. So overall we can say, I would say it's a nerf. I mean, it's an adjustment that makes her early game better but her late game worse, but overall I would tend more towards a nerf. because you're getting overall a 5% attack speed increase in the early game, but anything else is a nerf. So I would say it's a nerf overall. Now we have Karma. For Karma's first ability, the cooldown gets reduced by 1 per second, which is not bad at all. So she can spam her abilities more often. And Transcendent Embrace. I'm not sure if that... I think it was the ultimate. They buffed the ultimate by 20 base damage. Yeah, the base numbers, yeah, it's the ultimate. 20, 30, 40. And then the ability scaling. Wow. Full AP Karma's ultimate is nuking now. This is a big buff, actually. Like, you see, from 350 to 390, a 40 base damage increase, plus 20% ability power ratio increase. This is a very big damage buff onto Karma's ultimate. So Karma mid lane and Karma support getting better with those changes. Next one is going to be Lulu. Lulu is getting a pretty significant armor nerf from 40 to 34, making her way more vulnerable in those early fights, like against harassment from the ADC, or against champions that want to jump on her, like a Leona, for example. Leona is a great enchanter counter, and if Leona jumps onto you, she's gonna do she's gonna stun you, her auto attacks are gonna do more damage, and then the ADC is gonna hurt Lulu so much that if she's not careful, one bad trade might cost her life. On top of that, they're also nerfing the base shielding in the early game by 15. So overall they are nerfing Lulu, and I think the base armor -6 is actually significant for the early game trading, but they did nerf the third ability. So Lulu will still be good in the late game buffing enchanters up, but Lulu players have to be way more careful now, and they can't trade as aggressively as beforehand, because they will take way more damage than they used to. Now for Nunu. Nunu's first ability, the cooldown is getting lowered by 1 second per rank. Then the base damage is getting increased by 20 at each rank. And that's a nice buff for Nunu's first ability. More healing, but not more damage. And then for the ultimate, the minimum base damage is getting increased from 130 to 180 and 250 to 300. So 50, okay, it's 58 at each rank. And the maximum base damage is getting increased by 200, I guess. Yes. Yeah. It's a big Nunu buff. Nunu is chilling. Even if you go tank, it's big base damage buff, or like you're going hybrid, but I would recommend going tank. Yeah, nice Nunu buff. Nunu has been a very solid champion, in my opinion. S tier. Consistently S tier. So we will have to see how good those changes are gonna affect Nunu. But Nunu definitely getting some love by Riot. Next one, Pantheon's ultimate is getting decreased by 5 seconds. Irrelevant. Let's be honest. Now Renekton's ultimate is getting... Renekton receiving another ultimate. Can someone count how many buffs Renekton received in the last 2 patches? Because I feel like they're buffing Renekton, buffing him over and over. So the health gain is getting increased by 50 in the early game, and then 25 in the other levels. The cooldown is getting decreased into the late game by 10 seconds. And then the damage increase is 20 in the early game, 10 later on, and late game stays the same. Okay. I mean, it's nice to have Renekton buff for the ultimate. Another Renekton buff. They buffed the second ability the other time, or the first ability the other time. He just keeps getting buffs. Now for Riven, they're buffing the passive of Riven from 20% plus 2% per champion to 30%. This is a pretty significant buff because Riven, a lot of Riven's damage actually comes from her passive, because you're mixing your auto attacks, or should I say you're weaving your auto attacks in between your ability combos. Then on top of that, they're lowering the cooldown of the second ability in the early game by 1.5, and then later on it stays the same. Yeah, I think Riven, I saw like a Reddit thread where like Riven mains were like complaining that Riven isn't as good as she used to be in the meta right now. I think she's still fine. She's not broken, but she's a solid position where she's still strong, but not too strong that she needs to get permabanned or gets nerfed, because she's still a champion that is A, snowball reliant, and B, skill ceiling. I think the buff is nice to have. She didn't really need it, or honestly, maybe she needed a little bit of love, so I guess that's the love they gave her. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna affect her too much. The passive buff is not bad though. It's not bad. We have to see and test how much more damage she will do. I mean, they basically gave her 5% extra damage per attack damage. Per champion level. Oh, I said it wrong. They gave her 10%, right? This is the equivalent of 5 champion levels that they gave her for free. So the passive does the same damage that she would, like level 1 passive does the same damage as she would do at level 6. It's actually a big buff. But obviously she has she needs attack damage. I mean, it's still a big buff. It is a big buff. If you think about it, it is a big buff. They gave her 5 champion levels for free on the passive. It's actually a big buff. We'll see. Riven big buff. I need to notice. Riven jungle video, Renekton jungle video. Honestly, I might play Renekton jungle. I don't play Baron Lane that much. Riven, Renekton, Nunu, Hecarim, Aelia, Darius. Six video ideas to milk, guys. 6 videos idea to milk. Yes, let's go. Okay, next one. Swain. For Grand General, Swain sure hasn't been making a grand impact. If you have ornithophobia, these changes might not be for you. Max health gains. Oh, wow, 4 more. That's the 30. Yeah. Yes. That's a lot. Body, big boy. 33% increase. Big boy. Then Demonic Ascension is the ultimate. The ability ratio is getting increased for the healing. And for the damage, they're nerfing the damage, but they're increasing the ability power per second. So in the early game, it is a nerf, but the more ability power you have, then it's a buff, because you have better ability power per second. So overall, they're making Swain late game way better. Bam. Now for the item changes. Bloodthirster. They're nerfing the base attack damage, and they're also nerfing the attack speed of the passive. Champunk Chainsword. I felt like this item needed a buff, so I like that they're buffing this item. 5 more attack damage, 50 more HP, and 5 more ability haste. Nice to have. Crystalline Reflector. New 7% magic penetration. New buff, 50 HP. And the physical damage block in the late game is better. We need to try it out. Which champions run it? I guess like hybrid champions, or like Akali, or like Gwen, or maybe like Lilia can run Crystalline Reflector. Immortal Sheepbow. The shielding is getting increased by 100. And the lifeline life steal is getting increased by 3%. I mean, it is not bad for ADCs, or like maybe for Yasuo, Yone, or Tryndamere. It can be very good. Or maybe Master Yi even. Morello, 100 gold increase and 150 max HP increase. Running's Omen, the cost getting lowered, the armor getting increased. Charges gained, you're getting more determination now as a melee champion and as a range champion. Trinity Force, they lowered the cost and they increased the attack damage. Very good for champions like, I guess, Corki, Ezreal, Fiora, Jax, Camille, etc. Champions that benefit from 24 is nice to have. It's, I mean, 5 more attack damage and lower the gold. Very good, actually. Now for Kraken Slayer, I told you, they buffed Kraken Slayer. Like the minimum base damage and the late game base damage are getting increased, and they're also increasing the bonus attack damage. So for champions that are running Kraken Slayer, who is running Kraken Slayer? I guess Lucian. I'm AD based champions, especially Aelia, Lucian, Aelia, Akshan, I guess. Yeah, these guys are gonna benefit from the buff Kraken Slayer, for example. Not bad. And then for the Ice Dragon Soul, the damage received during the mark is getting Yeah, it's getting increased. 12% of the damage received during the mark. And then the slow effect is also getting increased by 10%. You can now change your name every 90 days. Oh, isn't that bad? It's no longer 1 month, at 90 days now. Okay, new skins: Pantheon, Silver, and Glorious Armada Olaf. But yeah, that's good for the changes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys can tell me down below your opinion about the changes, what you guys think, what you guys like, what you guys don't like, and what you guys wished for. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. Bye bye, YouTube frogs.